unfortunately, that we'll have a spouse that's not cooperating whatsoever. And the court has had to assign a special master. We've had this happen with, it could be the husband, the ex-husband, or the ex-wife. Normally it's the person that's on the property. They're just stubborn and they're like, they don't care what the court said or what the court did. They're staying on the property and they will not cooperate. And it's a long process, but the court eventually appoints someone to pretty much replace that spouse, to sign the listing agreement. And then the next step would be for us to get in the property. And if we can't get in the property, there's been situations where they've had to evict.
Happy New Year and welcome to episode 11 of Doral Homes Real Estate Talks. I'm your host, Betty Gonzalez. Joining us today are Damian and Luis, the driving forces behind the Tamayo Group, expert in real estate for divorce cases in Miami. With rising divorce rates in Florida, their insights are crucial for informed decisions in this complex area. Today, we are here to explore the intricacy world of real estate within divorce cases, shedding light on common hurdles, dispelling misconceptions, and most importantly, equipping divorcing couples with practical solutions for a brighter future. Without further ado, I am thrilled to welcome Damian and Luis to Doral Homes Real Estate Talk. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for good morning.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you for having us. We're very excited to be here and to share some information.
Good morning, Betty.
Great. Good morning. So I have a question for you guys. So could you please tell us where you're from? How long have you been in the business? How did you get in the business? And why real estate?
Well, I was born and raised in Miami, Florida. So my family's from Cuba, but I was born and raised here. Real estate, I started in 2016. I was with this brokerage, and I love to say this story because I love to bother Luis, but I started in 2016. Luis started maybe a year later. I was his mentor when he started, but there was something about our chemistry, our brotherly chemistry, that mentorship ended maybe a week, because as soon as we started noticing we shared the same work ethics. We were at the brokerage office every morning at 9. We were there. Many times we were the only ones there, working, cold calling. We started, instead of, I showed him the basics of real estate, but it quickly became this interactive agreement. And matter of fact, Luis was on one end of the brokerage office and I was in the other. And then we just looked at each other and we went, you have clients, I have clients. Why don't we work together as a team? And this guy got up from his desk and came over to me and he gave me a handshake. And that to me was solidified our team. And we instantly became brothers, and we started, working together, building our brand, building our team. Then we moved on to another brokerage until we moved now into Tamayo Real Estate Group. And the reason why we got into divorces and helping divorcing couples is because my wife is a family law attorney. So she would, she's well known in that environment, and she would ask us to get a price on a property because she has to work out, a property for clients that they're going through a divorce. So it started with that. Luis and I started providing her with comparative market analysis, a CMA report, and she started telling her friends, her colleagues, and before you know it, we were getting calls from other attorneys asking us for a price of a property. And so that's how we started in real estate, divorce niche. Luis will probably tell you how he started as well.
Yes, Lewis.
Right.
I'm
Well,
interested to find it out. That
yeah.
was
Well,
really good. By
I'm
the way, I'm
yes.
sorry. I really did like it because your story, as you explained it, Damien, because in this industry, it's hard to find somebody that has the same, ethics or work values. So this is really nice that you guys
Yeah.
found each other. I'm telling you, this is a blessing. So go ahead, Lewis. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, no worries. So I'm originally from New Jersey. Came down here in the early '80s. Um, I didn't do real estate right away. As Damien said, I started right around when he started, a little after he did. When I was a little kid, I would drive around with my uncle. He had many rental properties in New Jersey. So I'd go around with him collecting the rent. And he'd always tell me because he knew I'd like to go with him. So that was like my first exposure to real estate, collecting the rents, going to the different properties. So I always was intrigued by it. And when I had the opportunity to do it as a career, I jumped on it. And originally when we started out, it wasn't really divorce real estate. It was we were just two agents. But like Damien said, we clicked immediately. And, we have that I think the biggest thing that we have is the trust for each other, that, we know we got each other's backs. And, for a team, that's super important.
Oh, of course. I mean, and you're dealing with people, big assets. And then the niche that you guys are in, which is divorcee, that's pretty delicate. So I,
Yes.
I heard Damian talk about their wife started asking about comparative market analysis for the property. So I have a question. So how do you assess the fair market value of a family home in the context of a divorce? And what factors should be taken into account? Is it different from any other market analysis from anyone else? Or is it just the same, or you just have to present it and ask them to be more realistic with the pricing? So what is the difference between a regular person trying to sell versus a divorcee?
Well, when we get approached from an attorney or a divorcing couple that they have to sell their property, we go in as a regular transaction, as a regular real estate transaction. So we do a CMA, we do a comparative market analysis. We do that, and with that information, we present that to the attorneys, we present that to the divorcing couple. Now, yes, like many sellers, they've always want their property at a higher, price, but we try to find the median there. They want to sell as high as possible, like any other seller would. So we understand that. So we try to work out a market price and a actual selling price. So we work with those numbers. But when it comes to presenting it to an attorney or in court, we have to give them the price that comes out in a CMA report.
Yeah, just go ahead, Lewis.
No, I'd like to add to that, not only where it might differ a little, although I would hope most agents do the same with their clients, divorce or not. In our cases, I see a very important that we point out to the homeowners, both spouses, if they're, what type of liens are on the property. Are they both aware of the liens? Because, you could have, let's say, a HELOC on the property and they paid it down, and then all of a sudden one of the spouses started using it and the other one didn't know about it. And now, we get to the closing table and there's another, X amount of dollars of debt on the property. So, putting everything on the table, making sure that the property, not only, when we do our CMA, yes, we do, take into consideration condition of home, but, there's a lot that can happen. Maybe there's an old roof now with all the new things going on with the insurance companies. Any roof that's over 20 years old, you might not get a clear 4-point for the insurance, and you don't find that out to the very end when you're getting close, when you're already under contract. So a lot of things we need to point out to them that maybe normally people don't point out, but in today's age, you have to.
No, this is really interesting. So for those of our listeners or viewers that do not understand, let's clear some things out, because you mentioned HELOC. So could you explain to our audience, what does that mean?
Well, HELOC is a home equity line of credit. So basically, it's you borrow on the equity of your home, and it's not something that's given to you in a complete amount. You can borrow off of it. You can pay it back. So it's sort of like you can call it like an ATM on your house. You can pull money
almost
off.
like it's almost like a personal loan, but against
Yes.
the property.
Correct.
Gotcha. And when
Correct.
both of the couples, they're owners of the property, they both got almost like a debit card or a checking account.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that people understand what that means,
Yes.
because that is true. Like sometimes people hide their expenses from each other, especially if you go
Right.
into divorce.
Yes.
Okay, also, and then I'm just want to clarify for some of the viewers or listeners that, you know, are not familiar with the terms. CMA is almost like an appraisal, but conducted by an agent. So
Comparative market analysis.
comparative market analysis, but people don't understand that term sometimes. We
Right.
understand it.
Right.
But comparative is just meaning that we're comparing other similar properties in your area. So for those of you that do not know, which I'm pretty sure they do. And then I wanted to ask Damien, because he talked to me, because I was really interested about that. You mentioned to me that you use the comparative market analysis and you actually use the numbers that are, you know, of the properties that have sold. But sometimes the client wanna put the price different than what, you know, the data. But you present to the attorney, hey, look, they want us to sell the property for $800,000, for example. But the data says that this property will be worth market value $750, right? And why is this important?
Well, it's important because sometimes in a divorce, the property, which is the major asset of the family, is what is the value of it, and what they're going to be selling it for is going to contribute to the rest of their divorce. So they'll know from those numbers how much the money will be dispersed to the both parties. So yeah, so the sale of the house determines on what amount is given to each person in the divorce. So that when it comes to getting the right price, it's important. It's very important.
Right. So I figure that would be a very sticking point, because that goes your credibility, right? As an agent.
Right. Yes.
And trust on doing that. So, so given the rising divorce rates in Miami and Florida as a whole, being that we are the number 4th in the nation on divorces, can you shed some light on why divorcing couples should pay special attention to the family home as a valuable asset?
As we know, homes across America, for anyone purchasing a home, this is one of the biggest ways people can save money and actually invest for their future. A lot of homes end up being the retirement for a lot of folks. That's why we have reverse mortgages, because they're able to live off of the equity of the home, which is another type of lending instrument that's out there. You have anything you want to add to that, Damien? I think that's it.
Because the home, the property is a major asset, it is important for each person to realize what can be used in this property as far as the divorce. Can they afford to stay with the home? Can they afford to provide, an equity from the house to pay the other spouse? All those things. Can you handle the payments after the divorce? Those are things that a person has to consider when they're going through the divorce process.
So that's highlight all those things.
Yeah, that's how I was going to ask you, like, what are some of the common challenges divorces face when it comes to dealing with the family home, and how can they navigate this? So that was my question. So I could see, like, for my personal experience and a friend of mine, so sometimes either the wife or the husband want to leave the house to the wife for the kids, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they can afford it. So how does that conversation go when you just sit down and talk to them? Do you even have that conversation, or
very carefully?
Right. Do you have an example that you could say that it went bad, or one that went good, like either way?
Well, I mean, first of all, we're not attorneys, so those are kind of like a client, attorney privileges. However, when we come in, by the time we come in, there's already a decision made. whether it's going to be the house, the property is going to be sold, whatever it is. By the time that we come into the mix, that's already been established. However, sometimes that does change, and where they're trying to, do our work, which is to sell the property. However, something might come up that maybe one person will decide to say, I'm going to try to buy the other person out. Basically, what is said, the common quote there. So we go
try to help them.
Process.
Sorry? And we try to help them with that part of the transaction as well. Even if we don't end up listing the property, we will, we'll try to facilitate a lender for them, because a lot of people, they honestly want to purchase the home, but maybe they don't qualify. So we have to take them down that road, because, part of our job is to keep peace between the spouses, and, to get the property on the market and sold. If it's that they purchase it, that's fine too, because, we know that the family, lots of times, it's not always, but many times the wife would like to stay with there's children involved, and they would like to keep the home, and the kids are, going to school, to certain schools, and they want to keep that continuity in the kids' lives. So they try. So we do what we can to help them out. And at the same time, if they don't qualify, we show them the reason why they don't. So there's no hard feelings. And now we can focus on getting them the most money we can for their property. So then we can help them on the next step, which is possibly buy something more in their price range, or help them find a good rental if that ends up being the case. Whatever it is, our services don't stop at just selling
the property. So let me go to Luis. You said the lender for the spouse that wants to keep the property.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to find a lender for that spouse.
Right. We have a few lenders we work with, and they've worked with a few clients of ours in the past, and they understand the emotion that's involved. But, with lending, it's really simple. You qualify or you don't. So if the spouse is really interested in getting the purchasing the property, we're able to get them in touch with the lender, and the lender gets whatever information they need from them to see and qualify them. And gets back to us and say, hey, they do, they don't. Obviously they speak to the client and explain to them, what their situation is and what they can afford. We've had situations where they can afford it, but when they find out what the mortgage is going to be, they don't want to be in that position, because they're being smart. They don't want to spend half of their salary on a mortgage. So, but we need to be able to provide that for them too, to keep those lines of communication open.
So the question that I had is, so you said that by the time they get to you guys, they already had, sort that out. So usually comes after they talk to the attorney and they decided that they are going to get a divorce and they're going to sell the property. So this comes to you guys through attorneys and through lawyers that you have made connections in the past.
Yes.
Court appointed.
Right. We've also been appointed by judges. Let's say the two parties, they'll all come in with their realtors, and then the judge will be like, no, there's too much bias here, so I'm pointing you to a realtor. And luckily, we've been in that situation where we've been appointed to cases. Now, for that part of them deciding if they should stay with the home or not, yes, by the time we do come in, that is already settled, usually by a mediation, even before mediation or in court, that's already been determined. However, it does change sometimes. That's the issue sometimes with dealing with divorce cases, is that things change. 1 minute to the other, things change. The one person says fine, agrees to sell the property, and then next thing you know it, they want to stay with the property because of the kids, whatnot. And then we have to wait a little bit. There's another mediation. It's just a process, and what Luis and I have been able to do in these cases is, first of all, we take every divorce case differently, unique, so we take it by step, week by week. you know. Another great thing about Lewis and I is that because we're a team, when we go to the initial listing appointment, we do a regular listing appointment. We don't just show up and just start, putting the for sale sign. We do the same process as a regular real estate transaction. We do the
Sometimes twice.
Seller. I'm sorry.
Sometimes twice we do it.
Yeah. Well, most of the time it's twice because of course they're not together. They're, so we have to meet with one person. Usually it's the person who's living, the spouse who's living in the home is the person that we meet first, because that way we can see the property. It takes us that opportunity to do that right away. And then we schedule to meet with the other spouse, and it could be in person, it could be over the phone, it could be through Zoom, just a regular transaction. However, the great thing about working with Lewis and being in a team is that meeting these these individuals, our clients, we already know, okay, I'll deal more with this person and you'll deal more with that person. And we kind of like split a little bit. We're still a team, but we become the advocate for each of those of the spouse. So we become like the interpreter, the mediator for them.
Go between, yeah.
No, so they feel like even though it's the same team, they feel like each person has their own representation. Kind of like,
yes.
I can speak to Lewis because this is my guy, or I can speak to
right
because they understand me. And based on personalities, like we talked about earlier, like people feel more comfortable talking to a specific kind of person.
Yeah.
Wow, this is pretty interesting. I'm learning a lot. and that's why the real estate is so big, and it's such a big, I don't know, it has so many little, how do you call this, branches?
Niches.
Right? Niches. Yeah. So like, I specialize in the military and the VA and whatnot. And I know that I understand a lot of stuff that other people don't. And now with this, so if I were to have like a divorced couple, I will feel more comfortable referring them to you. Because you understand the processes. People are not specialists on everything. Right. So the fact that you're not a generalist, of course you can help everyone else, but the fact that you can help divorcees, that's a big deal to me. And it's good for our audience to know that there are specific people that you want to deal with your cases. You don't want just anybody.
Right.
There's times, relating to what we're talking about, unfortunately, that we'll have a spouse that's not cooperating whatsoever. And the court has had to assign a special master. We've had this happen with, it could be the husband, the ex-husband, or the ex-wife. Normally it's the person that's on the property. They're just stubborn, and they're like, they don't care what the court said or what the court did. They're staying on the property and they will not cooperate. And it's a long process, but the court eventually appoints someone to pretty much replace that spouse, to sign the listing agreement. And then the next step would be for us to get in the property. And if we can't get in the property, there's been situations where they've had to evict a spouse.
Even though they're this is really interesting.
Happens.
I just want you to elaborate a little bit more. So they evict the person, their own property.
Yes.
Even though they're up with the mortgages, everything is up to date. But because they don't want to cooperate.
Yes.
No, this is good for people to know, because I could just imagine people that are listening to this right now or watching in the future are because they want to know. So these are some of the stuff that could happen if they don't listen. Sure. So what message do you have for those people? And then touch on those things again, because it's pretty sad, So they appoint someone else so that they can sign in behalf of the owner.
That's correct.
That is one of the most extreme parts of.
But it happens.
And those are things that people should know that could happen. So those are way extreme. Normally, yes, by the time we come in, both parties have decided, okay, we're gonna sell the property. So it's a little bit easier that way. But sometimes it can be a little bit challenging, and we've testified in court. We've We've, served as expert witnesses in court in divorce cases. So things like that does happen. And there's a protocol of those steps. And we have to go along with it. Yeah.
The court's in charge. Most of, I mean, when it's at that point, it's normally already in the hands of a judge. And when a judge is making the decisions, normally those decisions are never changed because they've already.
The good thing about this is that we are not only certified real estate divorce specialists, but we are also trained. So we know what happens in these cases, and we've learned from the most simple. I mean, we've had divorce cases where the listing appointment, both the couple is right in front of us, and they're going through the divorce, but they're like, okay, what do we need to do? Okay, when I sell this, then okay, and it's just we're sometimes I walk out, we're like, that was awesome, that was great.
Like the perfect case scenario.
Perfect case scenario. But then there's also cases where it gets really, the back and forth. And Louis and I have to remain, steadfast in the end picture, the big picture, which is to sell the property, and to kind of like minimize, all this anger,
noise,
frustration, which is understandable. I mean, selling your property is a big deal to anybody, whether you're together or not. It's a big deal. It's emotional. It's all that, it's not knowing how the future is going to be. It's all that. But when you throw divorce in there, it's even more challenging and it's harder, but it's always good. I mean, we have a lot of people that are going through a divorce and they want to sell the property themselves, but they don't realize the difficulty it is. Not only if you're selling the property yourself, but to do it during a divorce, So
Damien, a person that wants to sell their house by themselves without divorcing, it's a challenge of itself.
Of course.
So just imagine going through all the emotion. Oh my goodness, yeah.
So you can imagine you have one person who says, okay, we're gonna get divorced, I'll sell the house. And then the other person's like, I don't trust you. How are you gonna sell the property yourself? No, we need a realtor. And then the other person is like, fine, I'll get a realtor, I'll get my friend to do it. And they're like, no, I don't trust that friend. So it becomes this craziness of he said, she said, and then, luckily that's where we come in, because we're like, we don't know both parties. We come in, we do our job, and our success and goal is to sell the property.
Got you. No, this is so interesting. So what are the key considerations that divorced couples should keep in mind when they're trying to sell their property? Like, what is it that they should consider? Like, I know we touched on them a little bit. You said some people are stubborn. There could be eviction, corporation. At one point, the court takes charge, but is there anything else that they should consider?
Taking care of the property in the meantime, keeping it as, ready for showing.
Pay the bills.
Yeah. Definitely very important. Giving us access, staying in touch with us. Normally the spouse that's living in the residence, being able to communicate with them. We've had luck with that. When people realize that that's the route that's got to be done and they have to sell the property, they give us access. Sometimes not completely, but we have to work around those things. It's part of we understand that all the emotion that's involved. I mean, it's a lot. We get it. The good thing is we're there to get them the maximum dollars we can for the property. So hopefully those funds are going to help them start a new life, whatever.
Would you say it's a little harder to sell a divorcee property than a regular other transaction, or will you consider that the same?
No. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, because you're dealing with two separate parties that might have two separate ways of thinking. Where if it's a couple or a person, their goal is one goal, to sell the property. They're on the same page. Now there may be a little back and forth between a married couple on the price, but they'll figure it out. When it's two divorced couples,
Have any divorcee ever got like hostile with you or trying to get mad at you, feeling that you're trying to sell their house and take them out of their house?
Not so much of that, And the funny thing is that, yes, we have experienced, a spouse who's upset, angry with us, but we realize that it's not really about us. They're just mad about the situation. And then one of the good things about Louis and I as a team is that we don't come in to any divorce situation of, selling the property. We don't go in and, okay, we got to sell this, we got to do this, and we got to, put it on the market, take pictures, all that. We don't come in like that. We come in, and as you know, Betty, we come in, we're not just realtors, we're psychiatrists, we're friends, we're a shoulder to lean on, we're all those things. As we said, selling a property is difficult. Adding divorce is even worse. So we come in and yes, they're not happy. We're coming in at the worst time in their life. They're depressed, they're sad, they're angry, they're mad, there's so many emotions. And then if you have kids in there, it's also very difficult, so, and it's also the not knowing what's going to happen in the future with the spouse. So we kind of like guide them through that with kid gloves. We go in, our showings sometimes are an hour long because we stay after the showing and we talk to them a little bit, and we, especially if the spouse is staying at that property. Little things like that, we're talking to them, we're guiding them, we're encouraging them. We're explaining to them, this is the next chapter in your life. And a lot of our clients accept it, they realize it, and they like that, and they thank us that. At the end of the situation, they thank us because we've helped them. We're not just there to sell your property. We're there to make sure that we do our job and that we're sending you off to a new chapter in your life.
You give me the feel that you are helping them go through this process as stress-free as possible, because they already have their own stress. You're trying to take the burden off of them.
They are going through so much stress as it is.
Yes.
So much stress that our goal is to do it stress-free for them. So we kind of like,
great feeling.
We've had clients that tell us, I'm going through the divorce, the mediations, the court hearings, and knowing that you guys are just taking care of me is what they'll say. Not taking care of the house, but you're taking care of me. I can't thank you enough. And that's what we get. And that's
great feeling.
And guys, so you would say that most of the time you help one divorcee, you will help them with is 3 transactions most of the time, right? The property that they're selling, potentially buying or renting another property for each person, right?
Yes. Not always.
But you take them you take them all the way through, and you try to help them within their budget constraints.
Exactly. I mean, it feels good when we're able to, we've had situations where we have had a mother with teen children and they're going to a particular school, teenagers super connect with their, their social environment, and being able to find them something in the same area where they can go to the same schools, being vigilant of that and making sure we're keeping them, be able to say, hey, listen, there's an opportunity for you to move to this place here, and the kids can still go to the same, oh, great, and move them there, and they're super happy. And it helps us in the long run as well, because we've gotten a lot of referral business from our divorced clients, just regular business. That's not even divorce.
I mean, but obviously because you provided a great service.
Right. And we built the relationships with the people. We're there. We build a relationship. Yes, we're there to provide a service, but we're there if you need us for anything, even if it's just some advice on something doing with real estate. We've had situations where there's been a good amount of money left. They've had a lot of equity, and they've turned around and maybe bought an investment property or, something like that, and we've helped them guide with that to make the proper purchase. So it's rewarding for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to it. I'm thinking of Damien sometimes sitting across from me in the office, and one particular client, she was just very stressed out and she was yelling at me, but I know she wasn't doing it in malice. And Damien was like, well, why is she talking to you like that? And I'm like, man, it's just, she's just going through a lot. And that happens, and it happens to him too. It's just part of the, part of the program for us. We have to just do our best to be realtors and psychologists, whatever, to make sure.
Yes. It's amazing how much you have to do, because like my kids were saying, Mommy, what did you want to do when you grew up, when you were little? And I was like, I really wanted to be a psychiatrist, no, a psychologist. And I was like, why do you do this? Because it takes too long to go to school for it. And they don't even pay you that much. At the end of the day, I ended up being one.
Oh yeah,
that's for
oh
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're many things when it comes to real estate. We're many hats.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So like I said, I don't want to take up all of your time. I have like maybe two more questions, and if you want to add something else from there, then we'll go. So what advice would you give to individuals who are just beginning the divorce process and are unsure about what to do with their family home? What advice, like they're just thinking about it?
Well, if they're thinking about it, I think what they need to do is first seek like a qualified family law attorney. That's definitely what they need to do. They need to speak with an attorney, find out their options, and then take it from there. If it comes to deciding already that we're going to get divorced, what are you going to do with the house? Definitely, I do recommend seeking advice from a realtor and see what they can do for them. What a person has to realize that when it comes to selling the property during a divorce, it's a lot more complicated than just a regular experienced realtor to sell the property. You got to get someone who is able to understand what you're going through, because sometimes through that process, there's different things that pop up when you're trying to sell your property and you're going through a divorce and you're dealing with all that stuff that's going on. You need a realtor that's able to be compassionate, to understand, to know what to do next if something changes, has a relation with your attorney as well, because they have to communicate with your attorney as well as your spouse's attorney. So those are very important things. A realtor has to like slow down a little bit when it comes to selling a property and be very patient, very understanding, and know that things can change from one week to the other.
Around how long does it take to sell from the beginning to end? Is it a little longer than any other regular sales?
I think that question it'll take as long if the property is priced correctly. And like Damien said in the beginning, sometimes we have a spouse that for whatever reason it doesn't agree with our estimated value for the property, and they go higher. The property will sit on the market, but we have our standard procedures, how we function. After X amount of days, we readdress the property, show them new data if anything else is closed, and say, hey, look, this house is like yours, just closed last week. It was actually for sale a little before yours, and it closed for this amount, and it's like your house, but it has a pool and it sold for less than what we're asking on yours. Maybe we should readdress the price, and maybe we should reduce it to maybe get some action, do an open house, so we
So what I'm taking is, one of the advice you will give divorcees is please price your property correctly from the beginning
100%.
to avoid any delay, especially if you want to move on with your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another thing also that we would love to, if someone was to contact us who has any questions about what to do with their home during a divorce. I mean, Louis and I have done this so many times already. We even have a book that we have.
Let me see this book.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy. I didn't have a chance to send it to you. But it's called Selling a House During Divorce. What are your options? These are great tips in here that we love to give to our clients, to anybody who's interested in knowing what they should do if that was to happen, a divorce and having to sell their property, or if they want to keep their property and what they can do to make that happen. So this book.
Do you have a digital copy of that?
I do, and I can send
we
it.
could put it in the show notes or in the in the comments when I upload it to YouTube, and then they could go through there, get that downloaded, and get a hold of you, because I mean, you're not charging for this book, but it's invaluable for people that are going through this process. This is really good. Thank you so much. Put it up again a little bit so people can see it.
There you go.
Selling a house during a divorce. What are your options? Damian Grass and Luis Tamayo. This is great. Thank you so much.
A lot of great tips in there.
No. This is so. And can you share some resources and tips besides your book? Maybe you have all of the resources and tips there for our listeners who want to learn more about managing real estate. Well, no, that's the book right there. That was my question.
There you go.
Those are the resources. So if you need, guys, if you need any resources, these are the experts. I always end up with saying you want to go to the experts, and Damian and Luis Tamayo with the Grass Tamayo group are the experts in divorce cases, so you will not go wrong. They have the personality, they have the aptitude, they have the caring, the compassion, the empathy to help you. But not only that, they know exactly what to do from the beginning to end. So there's no having a pleasure. So Damian and Luis with the Grass Tamayo group, how can people find you if they want to work with you to make sure that you represent them?
They can contact us. Our phone number, 305-298-8327. Lewis's phone number is 305-608-5617. You can
Always
find
available.
us on social media at Grass Tamayo Group. We're on TikTok. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, on YouTube as well. And we're going to be doing more YouTube stuff. So
you guys have to check them out. I love Damian's reels. You guys need to go and check him out. He is he is a star there on Instagram. And then they're gonna be YouTubers just like me, and we're gonna probably cooperate some more, and we're gonna do this more often. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for bringing in valuable information to our audience, and have a great day and Happy New Year. This is the first episode of the new year, episode 11 of the Real Estate Talks, Doral Homes Real Estate Talks. So thank you guys, and talk to you till next week. Bye guys.
Nice seeing you. Take care.